Thank you very much for inviting us this conference. And it's very honor for me to present our activities here in this conference. And please give me 15 minutes I speak as rapidly as possible. Today I'd like to present what and how JICA is supporting education development in Africa. First, I will briefly explain the overview of Japan's ODA and JICA. Then priority areas of JICA's cooperation in education. Further, I will explain JICA's commitment to education development in Africa and their achievements. And I will share our experiences to support South-South cooperation in this field. As shown on the slide, Japan's ODA is extended through a bilateral channel and as well as a multilateral channel. JICA is an executing agency for three modalities of Japanese ODA, namely technical cooperation, ODA loan, and grant aid. This is JICA's vision. JICA pursues inclusive and dynamic development. Inclusive development represents our approach to development. It encourages all people to recognize the development issues they face, participate in addressing them, and enjoy the fruits of such endeavors. Dynamic development refers to the creation of self-reinforcing virtuous cycles of mid to long-term economic growth and poverty reduction in a constantly changing environment. JICA would like to provide creative, highly effective support toward this end, at times moving swiftly, and at times acting from the longer perspective as the situation calls for. Under this vision, we are mandated to address four missions, as shown on the slide. Concerning priority areas, JICA published a new policy paper for education cooperation last September, titled JICA's Operation in Education Sector, Present and Future. You can get on the reception desk in the lobby. In this paper, we explain the reasons of our engagement in the education and what tasks we believe need to be tackled in the next 5 years towards achieving the Millennium Development Goals. We support education because we think it is a basic human right, and that is a key driver for socio-economic development. In addition, education plays an important role to create multicultural and peaceful society. The priority areas of JICA's cooperation are basic and higher education. We particularly focus on supporting primary and secondary education, while in higher education, our approach is focusing on supporting core institutions in the region. In the next few slides, I will further explain our commitments in Africa more specifically. In May 2008, the Japanese government co-hosted the fourth Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD 4, in Yokohama with other development partners, which were UN, World Bank, and UNDP. TICAD is aimed to promote high-level policy dialogue between the African leaders and their partners, and to mobilize support for African-owned development. By leading this TICAD process, Japanese government has been committed itself to contribute to boosting development in Africa. This process also guides JICA's operation there. And under the overall objective to foster vibrant Africa, 4 areas are adopted as focuses of Yokohama Action Plan. They are boosting economic growth, ensuring human security, and addressing environmental issues and climate change, and broadening partnership. Yokohama Action Plan is a 5-year roadmap for the support of African growth and development under the TICAD process. At TICAD 4, the government of Japan pledged to double its annual amount of ODA to Africa to a target of 1.8 billion by 2012. The total amount of disbursed in 2010 reached more than 2 billion, though it is a provisional figure, which exceeded the target amount for 2012. JICA's commitment to education sector indicated in the Yokohama Action Plan cover basic education, post-basic, and higher education. In the next few slides, I will show the concrete commitments to education sector and other achievements. In order to improve the access to education, we've committed to support to construct 1,000 schools. We mostly target rural schools and promote and consider the promotion of girls' education. In addition, for the areas with high enrollment in primary schools, we support construction of secondary schools as well. Based on our own development experiences in Japan, we know that teacher quality is one of the key factors to influence the quality of education. Thus, Japan committed to provide in-service training for 100,000 teachers in mathematics and science. The number of teachers trained so far is nearly 300,000 in 18 countries in total. Under this commitment, JICA is actively support knowledge exchange among African countries through a regional network of SMASE-WEXA. SMASE-WEXA stands for Strengthening of Mathematics and Science Education in Western, Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa. Later I will explain this case further as one of the good practices of South-South cooperation. In the Francophone African countries, we are supporting to extend participatory school management model. We call it school for all model in order to ensure all stakeholders of education, such as community members, administrators, teachers, and students, participate in school management. By expanding this model to over 10,000 schools in 4 countries, we have observed some positive changes. For example, community awareness of education is improving, and school enrollment and retention rate have been increased. Human resource development responding to the industrial needs is another challenge in Africa. JICA is also supporting the technical and vocational education and training, TVET, through enhancing capacity of core training institutions. One of the examples of the support is the support to the Institut National de Préparation Professionnelle in Congo, DRC. We aim at strengthening the linkage between vocational training provided and the demand of industry. In order to establish the core institution to promote science and technology in the region, we supported to establish the Egypt-Japan University for Science and Technology, EJUST. EJUST was, this is through the partnership with the government of Egypt. EJUST was opened in 2008, and the postgraduate courses was opened with 6 majors in February last year. This project is started with strong support from various universities in Japan. In the future, we expect that this institution would become a core in the region, providing an opportunity of advanced education and research for African students as well. As I mentioned earlier, we employ South-South cooperation framework to extend our support in Africa. Since Japan has been supporting this type of cooperation in basically in different regions since 1970s, we utilize these experiences to promote in Africa. I'd like to explain why we support South-South cooperation and what we expect from it. As indicated in the diagram, South-South cooperation is basically a mutual cooperation among developing countries based on their partnerships. The role of a partner country is to facilitate matchmaking between a resource country and a beneficiary country to support or planning the cooperation programs and assist their implementation. When we support this cooperation, we expect that the beneficiary country could get better outcomes since they have the better chance to find solutions to their development challenges in the experiences of other countries with similar situations. At the same time, we expect that the enhancement of the capacity of a resource country could make it become a donor of assistance. Here I'd like to share one of the good practices of South-South cooperation in Africa. This slide explains the evolution of South-South cooperation in the cases of teacher training program for science and mathematics in Kenya. At the first stage, shown on the middle of the slide, when Japan started a bilateral cooperation project in Kenya, Japan facilitated to provide training opportunities to Kenyan counterparts in the Philippines. The Philippines was in a good position to provide training for Kenyan counterparts because they had accumulated enough knowledge and technical expertise in teacher training of science and mathematics through the technical cooperation from Japan. Kenya successfully established a nationwide in-service training program for science and mathematics teachers that support to improve their skills. At second stage, now Kenya becomes a resource country in providing technical support to other African countries. Kenyan counterparts are visiting to many various countries such as Angola and Sudan in order to assist their counterparts in developing teacher training program or assessment tools of training and also accepting trainees from other countries to Kenya. South-South cooperation evolved into the establishment of a regional network called SMASE-WEXA. Now it covers all parts of the continent to share the knowledge and experiences of Kenya in order to address the common challenge in Africa regarding learning achievements of science and mathematics. Through this network, eventually expanded to 33 countries by now. Each member country has learned how to establish an in-service training system and what kinds of training are valuable for teachers in order to advance their teaching skills, building upon the Kenya's experiences. Through our monitoring, we found that beneficiary countries appreciated this framework because the knowledge shared by Kenya is practical and relevant to their current needs. At the same time, JICA is extending technical cooperation to some of the member countries to implement their plan. This case shows that the South-South cooperation is an effective framework to share the relevant knowledge and experiences widely and in a relatively short period of time. Finally, we are going to continue to support education development in Africa as committed in TIGED 4 and beyond through working more closely with other partner countries and regional institutions such as African Union and ADEA. Thank you very much for attention.